Are those books real? Really? I mean, is that?
You want the truth just among friends? No, they actually are.
Oh, nice,
I,
nice.
books are candy for me, both just to look at them on a shelf and to read them.
Yeah, and I can imagine one of those, if you pull it down, opens up a door and a pathway down to some chamber.
Totally, totally.
Nice.
Yeah, Chamber of Secrets. It's a Harry
There you go.
Potter book.
There you go. Well
Is
done.
Harry Potter on your bookshelf?
It's actually on my kitchen counter
Oh,
because my younger son's reading it.
Well, it's a good read for sure. And there looks like a lot of winners back there. But Alex and Shiv, I would love to turn our virtual stage over to you. We could sit here and talk books all day. We were going to talk puppies for a little bit in our last session, but we've got it. We've got an objective here, and I know Alex is going to be steering our ship. So I don't want to take any other time away from the two of you. And again, audience, please use that chat window down at the bottom of the screen there. Please use that Q&A box. We'd love to hear some of your questions as we're going to be live at the end of this session. Well, we're live right now. So please start to throw your questions in there as we move through this conversation. And Alex, I'll turn it over to you.
So yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Norman. I'm the Chief Growth Officer of Wavemaker. We're a WPP global media agency dedicated to driving growth for our clients. I'm pleased to be here with Shiv Singh, who's the Expedia Group's brand SVP and General Manager. Shiv has led a long-spanning career in marketing strategy, brand development, and brand innovation across B2C and B2B sectors. Shiv started his career at Razorfish, where he became global head of social and later led marketing globally at PepsiCo and published the book Social Media Marketing for Dummies. Soon after, Shiv became senior vice president at Visa, where he was responsible for driving growth or driving go-to-market strategies for some of the company's most disruptive innovations. Then Shiv became CMO of Eargo, a hearing aid manufacturing company that went public in 2020, and founded Savvy Matters, advising Fortune 500 companies and early stage startups on marketing and digital transformation, which also led Shiv to author the book Savvy: Navigating Fake Companies, Fake Leaders, and Fake News in the Post-Trust Era, which is currently available on Amazon.com. So, Shiv, this is an exciting and extraordinary background that you have. It seems you've always been on the cutting edge of brand and digital innovation. So taking a step back, how did you get started in this business, and how did you end up in this field?
Alex, well, firstly, thank you for that very kind introduction, and also for throwing in the book plug. You didn't have to. That was sweet of you.
I didn't say the price, or there's a 10% discount.
Whatever you want, you got it.
Nice.
So to answer your question, I wish, I could sort of share my master plan the way Elon Musk had his master plan 10 years ago, for Tesla. But the truth is that there has been no master plan. And this might not be the most inspiring or provocative thing to say, or, best advice. But I actually feel I've benefited the most by not having a master plan, and instead by just moving to things that are interesting to me, that I feel would be most impactful, and really taking it every, step by step, trying to see what's around the next corner and rushing there and learning as much as I can as quickly as possible. And one example of that I'll share with you is, last fall, I was going through the interview process to join the Expedia group. And, the person who was interviewing me said, look, I have to ask this question. It might be a massive turnoff, but I'm going to ask it. And he said, travel is in a free fall at the moment. I mean, this was, during the year of COVID, and as a result, we're doing massive retooling, and there's a lot of ambiguity, roles changing, businesses changing. We're refiguring, just sort of the operating system of the entire business. Are you sure you're interested in joining? And my response to that was, call me crazy, but I'm the kind of guy who likes to run into fires. And while that can at times be career limiting, it's also led to the most fulfilling experiences for me, which translates into what might sound like a convoluted career trajectory as you outlined.
Well, it sounds like you're the first responder of business. I think we need a card, a lanyard for that. So, I mean, so jumping ahead, I mean, it's a pretty incredible movie you made, particularly at the time that you made it, right? So you joined Expedia in January 2021 at a time when the world wasn't yet ready for travel. So what did you see when you first walked in the door? What did you see then? And what are you seeing now in terms of where travel was and is going?
Yeah. So I firstly made the decision to join in the October timeframe or early November, when there was not a vaccine out. So no vaccines had been announced.
Mm.
None of us knew whether we'd be in sort of the lockdown state for a few more months or a year or 2 years even. No one had any clue. But I believed fundamentally in the importance of travel, of how it brings people together, how it makes the world a smaller place, how it makes us think of ourselves more as planet Earth citizens versus, US citizens or Democrats or Republicans or, however you want to slice and dice, whether it's here in the States or elsewhere, all those, painful divisions that we're dealing with. So I believed and have my entire life, I've lived and grown up in 3 different continents, that travel is a massive force for good. And this is going to sound kitschy or something, but what that translates into is the world needs travel. We need to understand each other. We need to explore. We need to, you know, go into different cultures. We need to have those holidays and those experiences. We need to be confronting our biases and our prejudices, all of that. And whether it would take 3 months for travel to start recovering or 6 months or 18 months, I was ready for that journey. So with that broader aspiration in mind, I was very comfortable with making the plunge into the Expedia group. Now, in terms of what did I see when I joined was, by the time we got to February, it got really interesting because we could see round the corner. We could see, vaccines getting deployed. We could see people's mind shift towards travel changing. People were vacation deprived. The research was showing more vacation deprived than they've ever been in their lives. And they were starting to think about what we call revenge travel, making up for lost time. Because all of a sudden, like in my case, I realized, oh my gosh, I've missed a summer of travel and I only have 5 more years or 6 more years with my 12-year-old before he goes off to college. And I want to make my next set of family travel all that more special. So we started to see that. The interesting challenge and what's been so exciting at the same time is how do you time it perfectly? How do you turn on your marketing machine? How you upscale your spends so that you're capturing that demand, but aren't too ahead of it and wasting your dollars or behind the curve and sort of giving up share to your competitors. And that's been a fascinating exercise over the last several months as we think about what's happening in the US versus, continental Europe versus the UK versus Japan versus Australia versus India, all over the world. So that's been I would say, a really big focus. That's sort of one big piece to it. The other big piece that has also been really interesting is, and I touched upon this briefly, is how we think about travel has changed. It's more of a conscious choice. We're realizing life is short and we have to take advantage of it. And as a result, we're looking for those partners and those brands who can really enable us to have those better travel experiences. And that's what led us to relaunching the Expedia brand in April with the new tagline, Expedia, it matters who you travel with, because we wanted to respond to that moment very strongly, very directly, that we're going to be your ultimate travel companion through the entire journey and every journey that you're on. So that was another piece to it. We took this moment to recognize we had a new set of consumer behaviors, a mindset shift, a massive mindset shift, and relaunch the brand and reintroduce ourselves in a different way.
Now, I love the concept of vacation deprived, and I also love the concept of revenge travel. I wonder who the enemy is in that scenario. I quite
COVID.
there you go.
Clearly COVID.
Because I would bet myself, and probably a source of many people's mental illness issues. But that being said, I think that we're all seeing around the world a need for us to go to travel and looking for the right source to be able to do that. So and you talked about the shifting of of behaviors and attitudes around travel. Is the data telling us this, or telling you this in your teams? What is the data implying in terms of the appetite across markets for that type of messaging?
Yeah. So we did a global study in December and January, where we really tried to understand how people were thinking about travel. And the study was, it was the 15th year we were running it globally, 22nd year since its beginning. And what was crazy about it was how glaringly sharp the data was, which was that it literally is like we had never seen travel deprivation the way we were seeing it. And that people were raring to get out of their houses and their homes and their apartments as soon as their governments and the health officials allowed them to do so, or as soon as they felt it was safe. And what this translated into then, it was really fascinating, is on specific dates, we literally saw a paradigm shift take place. And my favorite is March 15th or March 16th, when President Biden announced that 100 million vaccines would be available or were available now. That day show a sharp, sudden jump in our business and also our competitors' businesses. But it was that macro moment of people raring to travel, getting that confidence that it was safe to do so, and then going and booking. And even if you were to search in Google Trends for travel or Expedia or something, you'll see that bump. It's mind-blowing.
And I think with your messaging, which is around kind of who you're traveling with, like take a friend, definitely helps your business, right? Because now it's not just one person booking your travel, it's two.
Yeah. Well, yeah, totally. And the other piece to it is that the ultimate travel companion is Expedia. It's us, because we support you at every stage. Because the other piece with travel is we are, as we should be, much more sensitive to health and safety measures and stuff like that. And we're positioning ourselves and building our business around, we've got your back.
So how is the experience that you're saying is so important to travel, which we all know? How is that baked into your business? Are you adding more services? What would you see as the biggest opportunity for Expedia in this space?
Yeah, I mean that's a whole nother hour that we could talk about it. But I'll share a few quick, really simple and important ones. Over the last few months, and we've put a lot of effort into communicating much more aggressively about specific features and services that hotel properties and airlines provide that are in the health and safety realm. A very simple example of that is, during the course of COVID, you were able to search an airline based on whether they kept their middle seats empty or not. Massively important. You would be able to search and filter hotel properties based on their health and cleanliness measures and protocols in place. You're now able to go to Expedia and very quickly, just with a few clicks, figure out, are you actually allowed to travel to Australia as a US citizen? When you do get there, would you be required to quarantine? If you have an issue, who do you call, and how we as Expedia can help you? So it's a whole range of product features, messages, etc. Now, the one thing I would add to that is it's a multi-year journey. It doesn't happen overnight. We also, as does the rest of the travel industry, have lots of customers who had made cancellations, got travel refunds, and it's a complex industry, and there's a lot of sorting through that's happening there. But this is the journey that we're on, and this is how we want to serve our consumers and our travelers in the future.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I mean, I think it's a huge impact on travelers. At the same time, it sounds like it's a huge impact on the businesses that that serve those travelers, the hotels, restaurants, and all of that. So you are. It sounds like you're just sort of lifting the entire category up to a point where you're making it more comfortable to travel. At the same time, you're providing more opportunities for venues that are taking responsibility to get more visibility and more business.
Absolutely.
So you at Expedia, you're sitting between the brand communication and performance. I mean, you're pure play business at Expedia, and you have access to all the data, basically. So where do you find the balance between the two, and where do you find that working the most in your day-to-day business?
Yeah, so the Expedia is a really exciting business, and it's a business that, it was established 25 years ago. And when it was established, it was built on the idea that instead of having to talk to a travel agent who'd be across from you and you wouldn't know what they were typing into their computer and what they would be seeing, and then they would figure out what they wanted to tell you, all of a sudden, everything was in your hands, in your complete control. We sort of turned the screen so that the consumer was completely empowered. The business has been built over the last 25 years, sort of as the ultimate direct-to-consumer brand. It was the biggest DTC brand before the DTC acronym existed in many respects. And through tight partnerships with Google and others. So the kind of sophistication and the thinking and the measurement on the performance marketing side is just phenomenal. And I've huge respect for everyone that develops that. The other piece to it, though, is we know, and this was part of our brand relaunches, as we enter the next chapter of Expedia's growth, that's not going to be enough. We want to move up the value chain, be there for our travelers at every stage, from the point of inspiration to the point of purchase, to when they're on their trip, to when they return back home. And for that, it means, doubling down on building a really powerful, emotionally rich brand, even more than what it has been in the past. And a lot of great work has been done historically. So when we launched a new positioning, it was the largest brand investment in 5 years. And it was 5 years because calculating what it was before that was difficult, which is why we didn't say ever. And the fascinating piece, and this is what we're constantly interrogating, is how is the brand and the performance side working together? How is the symphony performing, not the sub-functions of marketing? And how is each, and especially on the brand side, serving to truly lift all boats? And what I learned from when I was at Pepsi, I learned all about what it means to build great global brands, and same with Visa. But what I picked up when I was at the DTC startup was you can actually use brand to influence short-term performance metrics. If you think about it really carefully, if you have the right creative, the right insights, and you plan your media really smartly. So in our world, we try to bring that together, and they should never, ever be two ships passing in the night. And the only way to avoid that happening is to make sure that everyone understands the other side well enough and feels vested and has a stake in it.
That's fascinating. I love the symphony versus the sub function. I'm gonna have to steal that one. So with that being said, I think everyone in the audience has probably seen one or two or more of your ads on various different mediums. What would you say that you're the most proud of? I know it's hard because it's a lot of great stuff, but is there anything that stands out for you as the most interesting?
At Expedia?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, actually, let's start there. Then if you want to expand on that, by all means.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've only been at Expedia 6, 7 months, so there's not that much work out, but the team's done awesome stuff. Uh, I'd like to reframe the question and talk about what program. And for me, it's two. It's a brand relaunch, and through the brand relaunch in April, we uh, you know, launched this wonderful campaign with Rashida Jones, really demonstrating how, we're the ultimate travel companion and have a traveler's back. We partnered with Joe Jonas to further demonstrate how we give a helping hand to travelers. And it was a phenomenal grassroots PR effort where we actually had, working with Joe Jonas, a 3D version of his hand printed, and we gave it to 500 influencers who just went sort of bat crazy about it because they're like, why am I getting this? I'm going to see if I have it here. But they're like, why am I getting this? But the story really resonated because it was all about giving people, and symbolically, a helping hand as they get out into the world and travel. So that's a second example. And then more recently, we ran Expedia Travel Week. It's our equivalent of Amazon Prime Day, because we knew travel demand was coming back and we wanted to give the best to our travelers. So lots going on.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely great and slightly creepy, but I'm sure the influencers in the internet had a fun time with that. I'm actually a huge fan of the Expedia Travel Week. I think it feels like it's your version of Amazon's Prime Day. Where whatever that anxiety that you mentioned earlier before, and that revenge travel. I want to press buttons. I want to buy something. I want to instead of buying new pair of sneakers on Amazon, I might just actually buy a trip to Miami. I don't know. But are we going to start seeing that every year? I mean, is this going to be a recurring promotion that changes the way that we think about when we book travel?
Alex, time will tell.
I'm sure you'd want that. So the answer to that question is, of course. So you yourself are an avid traveler. I mean, you've lived all over the world. So in a lot of ways, when you joined, it sounds like when you joined Expedia, it sounds like it could have been your dream job, right? Now that you're basically the gatekeeper for everyone else's travel experiences, when you've had travel experiences of your own, when you were bouncing around the world, I mean, that'll get you in trouble with your company. But what app did you use to manage all that?
Yeah, so look, great question. And when I was interviewing with Expedia, what I did was I went through my email, and God bless Gmail. I've been using Gmail since it first came out in 2003, and that's a wonderful search engine. And I wanted to see who I had been making reservations with, outside of corporate travel. And did I have a true, long-term existing relationship with the Expedia group? It's a lot of different brands in the family. And I found that it was in 2003 that I first booked with an Expedia group brand. And it was the Orbitz brand, which is also owned by the Expedia group. And then have sort of bounced between Expedia and Orbitz over the years.
Oh, that's funny. Well, okay. Well, that's job security right there. That's you talk about.
Yeah, I take that into meetings.
I bet you do.
Hey, I'm in this. I was driving revenue a long time ago.
There you go. A long time listener, first time caller. So, you speak about Gmail, and obviously, there's a lot of questions around how much Gmail knows about you. And I know that you personally have shared your thoughts publicly and through your book about the need for greater responsibility among marketers in the digital age today, and the lack of trust from consumers as we're peering in, as brands in some cases are peering into people's lives and their behaviors. So tell us more about your point of view and your perspective around the responsibility of us marketers, and then and one hand, and the trust that is either being lost in some cases by consumers on the other, and what we can do to fix it.
Yeah. So this is really hard stuff for me because, the impetus for me to write this book, and I actually co-authored it with a clinical psychologist who happens to coincidentally also be my wife. Um, but the genesis for it was, we were having an after dinner glass of wine, and we were just talking about the world our children would inherit from us, from all of us. And what struck us was, and this is, going back a year ago, a year and a half ago, is that we were at serious risk of handing a world to our children that was going to be far worse off than the ones we've all gotten from previous generations. And then we started to unpack that further. And this conversation was actually in 2018. And we realized and saw that misinformation and fake news was really even bigger and worse than COVID in some respects. Now, I don't mean that flippantly, because there's been horrible, tragic deaths and issues around COVID, but it's also causing immense damage. And then through the course of our book, we also started to unpack that a bit more. And what we saw was, at least what I saw, is that marketers, given how much we spend in the media ecosystem, we fund the platforms, we fuel the ways that misinformation and fake news, whether it's about vaccines or it's about, political leaders, or about whatever it may be, that travels. And that's led us to the thinking that, business has a much greater responsibility than it's willing to accept, and we all need to do more. And then, and this is where I always hesitate to say this, because I feel it's the point where I start to lose potential readers and friends, is we as marketers, because of how much money gets spent through media, we're absolving ourselves of our responsibility, because we fund the ecosystem. And we don't talk about these issues at all. I subscribe to all the trades. I am in a whole bunch of marketing conversations, and we very, very rarely hold each other accountable. And I think that's unfortunate. And it's the advertising ecosystem that funds so much.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? I mean, we create the beast that creates us, that creates the beast, and so forth and so on. So no end in sight. I think we have a lot of, and so thank you for introducing that provocative and topic of which people can debate and discuss. And so we will be talking about this for months and perhaps for years to come. But thank you for getting that, at least that started. So as a marketer, as a traveler, as a citizen of the world, you clearly have a point of view on where we're going now that the world is seeing the end closer than the beginning from the pandemic. And so where do you think that we're going to be in next year or the next 2 to 3 years?
In terms of travel and how
we feel about it.
Yeah. Look, when you're a parent, and when you, if you're wired the way I am, even though it may not sound like time, you have to believe in the future and have hope. So first and foremost, travel is coming back, and it's coming back in a massive way. We're already seeing it here in the States, and it's spreading around the world. I mean, just try renting a car or going to a major city airport, as I was in just yesterday, and you see it's coming back. And as long as we around the world keep the Delta variant under control, and the wonderful pharma companies keep staying ahead of the COVID with the vaccines, travel will keep coming back, and that's incredibly that's good. And then I'd say, more broadly speaking, I mean, like, here in the States, it's been a hard year in many respects. We had what happened with George Floyd. We had what happened on January 6th. We had what happened in when the pandemic hit us. These are all really massively important awakenings, which exposed the sort of the fissures in society and the challenges and the different points of views, etc. But at the same time, there was also a lot of incredible good. And I'll go back to the example of, what these biotechs and the pharma companies have done. Getting these vaccines out, vaccines that would take a decade normally, were rolled out in 6 to 8 months. They were operating like startups. There's phenomenally good stuff happening as well. And with the important awakenings and some of the good stuff, we all have to believe that things are only going to get better in the future. Travel is one little piece of that. As we connect around the world, we hug our friends and families when we meet them. But we all have a responsibility. And I mean, here in the States, it's the entrepreneurial spirit that just makes great things happen. So I'm optimistic.
Well, I think a lot of us are, and obviously we're hoping that you are 100% correct, because everyone's looking forward to getting back into a plane, into a train, automobile, and or a boat, and do the thing. So
via Expedia, right?
Do you guys book boats?
Cruises, definitely.
Which, by the way, if anyone in the cruise industry would hear me say boat, then they would freak out. I guess it's ships, right? So it's a whole different story. Actually, a whole different level, right? And that's no rowboats here. So thank you for that point of view. And I'd like to just kind of shift gears a little bit, because I think because everyone sees a purple background for me, and we see basically a library behind you. You wrote 2 books. And it looks like you're an avid reader. So what are you reading right now?
Oh, this is, unfortunately, this is more in the depressing end. I don't know if you're ready for that. It does jive with our conversation though. But this is what's right in front of me that I'm going through. Twilight of Democracy, the seductive lure of authoritarianism and how it sort of moves across the world. My hope is that's not happening here and won't happen here, but it's still a very real conversation. So that's one book. Nice. and I feel, and this is what's interesting, Alex. We think about marketing as brand building and creating ads and performance marketing and, search engine marketing and stuff like that. But one, we have a role in society that's broader, as individuals, as marketers. And 2, what I've learned, at least in my own career, is the broader the view I take on life, the better a marketer it makes me. The better I understand consumer behavior, the better I'm able to glean consumer insights and activate on it. And I subscribe to The Economist. That's my best marketing trade publication, in a sense. So that's Twilight of Democracy, one book that I'm reading. I typically go through 2 books at a time because the way my brain works, and I like to shift. The other book is I'm reading is the new Amazon book that's out, Amazon Unbound, which is the inside story of how they've just grown so massively, and it's a study in culture and growth, and also maybe a bit of corporate aggression.
There you go. Well, that's very impressive. I don't know anyone that can read 2 books at the same time. For me, I have like 10 books that I've been reading at the same time for the past 5 years. Okay, so it's a journey. It's no destination in sight. But I love the fact that you say having a broader view on the world makes you a better marketer. At the same time, you also had mentioned earlier in the session about how seeing the world also gives you a very unique perspective. So in some respects, if you use Expedia, you can be a better marketer. I'm going to help you with
Totally.
yeah, so
Again,
I'm going to help you with the advertising campaign.
I sort of feel now, instead of sending you one bottle of wine, I need to send you two.
Oh, there was
Very
one
well
bottle
done.
in the works. Okay, well, look, I whatever I can do to get myself invited to dinner is my goal. So if you were to look back to your younger self, as we round out the session, what advice would you give your younger self with all the stuff that you know now, that perhaps may have made it easier for you or may help other people on their journey who are on this call?
Yeah, I would say a few things. The first is, and I don't think anyone really shares this, at least it wasn't shared with me, which is that, you know, going through life it's full of choppy waters. And when you hear from someone who's successful or at the end of their career, whatever it may be, you look at where they are and you're like, wow, that was, you know, an amazing career that went straight north. But the truth is, every career and every life is up and down, and eventually you get higher and higher. But there are ups and downs, and how you respond and behave in those down moments is actually what determines whether you're able to grow further and develop. And we I think talk a lot about what success looks like and how to treat success, but I think we need to focus on how do we respond and behave in times of failure. And that goes to character, that goes to grit, that goes to taking the long view, that goes to embracing empathy in your own life and how you take care of yourself and how you support others as well. It's all those pieces. So get ready for the failures as well, and how you live through those failures is what will define you. That's one part of it. The other thing I would say is we all have greater responsibility, greater influence, greater control, and greater potential impact than we realize. And that's whether you're a 19-year-old, leaving high school, or 22-year-old after undergrad, mid-career 35-year-old, or a 50-year-old, whatever it may be. But be mindful of that, and we can do more and give more, and we should never let that opportunity go.
Here. I think that last point resonates with me for sure, because I feel like mentoring, but to me is mentoring, and I myself would give more or encourage people to mentor more to move the ball forward for everyone collectively. So I want to thank you. I think we're just about done with our session, but I wanted to thank you for the time and for the insight. I also want to thank our audience for dialing into this, and I also want to thank Expedia, right? Because I think that they apparently have got obviously have gotten a great marketer running the helm for them, and look forward to the future success of the business. I have already downloaded Expedia app actually, but I had it orbits already, so just
which is great. All in the family.
There you go. And look forward to traveling with you again soon.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex. And I just want to mention I'm part of an amazing team and lucky to be on it. A lot of great leaders.
Awesome. Very great. Alex, thank you for taking us through that conversation. Shiv, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Definitely excited for everyone to get back out and travel for sure. As I've just started to resume travel here myself. So appreciate all the help.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Awesome. And so to our audience, thank you very much. We are at the end of our day right now. We have concluded, but just want to let you know that all this entire session is going to be available on demand on our YouTube channel. So you can go check it out. If you missed anything, or if you want to get a recap of anything, or just go back and replay the entire thing from start to finish, you know where to go for that. We are going to have another live cast happening next week. Happening on July 19th, and that is for the future of Hispanic marketing. And that is our virtual summit at 12:40 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to have Pepsi, the U.S. Consensus Bureau, AARP, Burger King, and a handful of others joining us. We hope to see you there. And if not there, at a future one, maybe virtual, maybe in person, whatever it is, we'd love to see you as our community continues to grow. So have a terrific day and enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you soon.